What are some of these agreements that we make with ourselves and with other people?
I need cat food. I need a life. Uh, Anytime you tell yourself, I want Goodwood should have something different than it currently is, and you've now got a relationship to that. You're now engaged with it. Whether you admit it or not, you will eat that. Eat it meaning you put the karma in motion. You say, I need to, would, could, should. So they're all agreements, you know. Hey, Brian, I'll get back to you about that. I just made an agreement. You say, hey, David, here's a restaurant you ought to try in London. I go, oh, God. Now, if I just said, I really don't want to forget that, I just made an agreement with myself that I would like to, would, could, should, need to keep track of that, right? So little, big, personal, professional, doesn't matter. And most people have no clue how many agreements they've made with themselves and other people. And that's a lot of what the initial part of the GTD process really is just getting you to identify what's got your attention.
Right. Fleshing out all the agreements that are swimming around in my head for the past years, days, years.
Anytime.
And every day we're conscious, more agreements are happening in our mind, whether we want to or not.
Yeah.
Because that's what the brain does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
And
it's hungry. It's hungry. You know, the mind looks at things and it wants. It says, you know, so it's hungry for that. So you can learn to manage all of that. But as I would just go in and help these people do their business. But as I was starting that consult, I said, well, first of all, helping people improve their process, and then I get bored. Once we improved it, then I get bored and go find another job. Well, then I discovered they actually pay people to do that. They call them something, right? Consultant.
Right.
Wow, couldn't spell it, now I are one. 1981, hang on, my shingle, Allen Associates. And then I got very hungry to say, okay, wow, if this is going to be my career, it'd be nice to find some good models that if you asked me to show up and I thought I could help you and it wasn't clear how I could help you, it'd be nice to pull something out of my back pocket that would be a model that I could apply, no matter who you are, where you are, what your business was, that would improve your condition. And maybe have you willing to pay me money for it, right? So that's where I got very hungry for models. Also, I was hungry for clear space. You know, my life was getting a little bit more complex, and having discovered both in my meditation, spiritual practices, as well as the martial arts, how cool it was to have a clear head, how much more effective I could be and happier it could be and more relaxed. But it was starting to get screwed up with this complexity of my world was increasing. Right. And so I got hungry for techniques for myself that would keep my head clear.
Scratching your own itch, as
yeah,
they say.
Absolutely. And then I had a guy who met me. He kind of took to me. He'd been for 25 years, had been an executive consultant in organizational change, had done a lot of work and had uncovered quite a number of techniques that he found were extremely useful and practical if he was trying to get, you know, senior people in an organization to actually be able to move forward toward where they wanted to go, as opposed to kind of being in mud and quicksand. And so Dean took to me and he said, David, I brought him a client. He said, well, since you brought me this client, I'll take you under my wing and share with you everything I know. You help me, you and I can just deliver this work together. So we did. And he taught me a ton of stuff. And the first thing he did was he sat down and said, David, let me share something with you that how we're going to work, first of all, with the guy at the top and then each one of their directs. He said, I'm going to put you through that process. The first thing was pen and paper, big stack of printer paper, nice pen. Okay, David, empty your head. One thought per piece of paper. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Oh my God. Now I wasn't broken. I mean, I had my act pretty well together. I had no idea though what would happen once I unloaded all of that. And then he had me take that pile of paper, put it back in front of me one at a time. What is it, David? What's the next action? And if I could finish the action in 2 minutes, we did it right then. If I could delegate it, we'd actually delegate it on a handwritten memo that would go into my out basket, out to delegate. Or I would put a Post-it with the next action on the piece of paper and put that in a big pile. Right. And then with that big pile, first of all, I'd finished a lot of 2-minute things. I'd delegated quite a number of things. And then I had a big pile of still stuff I had to do. It was longer than 2-minute actions. He said, David, just organize that pile of next actions however you want. And so I went, well, let's see, that kind of goes here, that kind of goes there. Then we grabbed manila folders. And he said, okay, just organize those in some 7 to 10 categories you've got. Right? And then stick those in your second basket. And then before you start your day, you just thumb through all those things, find the things that you really think you can get to, need to get to first, pull those pieces of paper out, stick them in a red folder on the front of your desk. Changed my life. I went, oh my God. How cool is that? So those became really key elements. And he had uncovered that because he discovered that executives who hadn't done that had all this old business clogging up their head, and they're trying to create new stuff, and their old business is just eating them like rats, and they're in the cellar. And so he had discovered that that was absolutely critical for an executive. Top person first, and then you had to go fast and then work with all their directs because they're spewing out all this work they were the bottleneck.
Isn't it strange that something that sounds so simple, you just described it in 3 minutes, could change someone's consciousness?
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. It did mine, and suddenly it, without fail, produced clarity, focus, more mental space, more of a sense of control, more of a sense of stability, more ability to focus on the meaningful stuff. And I turned around and started to do that with all of my other clients. It turned out it produced exactly the same results. No exception. More control, more stability, more focus, more space to focus on meaningful things. I went, wow, that's cool. So I discovered, that was the beginning of what was to become GTD 25 years later when I wrote the book. It wasn't GTD then. GTD was just the shorthand for getting things done, which was the title of the book.
Right.
Right.
But it became the system.
Became the system.